Hi, my name is John Heiser, and our family have lived in the Harrington community for over 100 years. The pond has been there for so long that there's been 3 and 4 generations or more that have grown up in Harrington, and to them, the pond is the natural area that should be preserved. If the pond goes, then this mill is redundant. It runs off water power. It was designed to run off water power. And over the last 16, 17 years, the mill has been totally renovated, right from the ground up. One of the first things we did was to jack the whole building up and used a Trillium grant to put all new foundation under the building. There's been all new steel roof put on it, all new siding. Approximately about 10 years ago, with the Conservation Authority and different people started talking about that there's a possibility that the pond should be taken out and put back to what they call the natural state again. And at that time, it was going to cost approximately $500,000 to either dredge it out or make repairs to the dam. And but since then, there's been a number of environmental studies and reports, and now we're talking expenses of between $1.5 to $2 million to actually save the pond, and it's more than what the local community can handle. As an association, we've made a commitment to the township to try and raise approximately 1/3 of the money if we could. But it still leaves a tremendous amount, and so we're asking people to donate to this power fund to not only to preserve the pond for the present, but it preserves the pond for all future generations to come. It's going to be a living museum, bringing the children, let them know what the past was like, and remind them that it's part of their heritage that they need to pass on to their children.
Hi, my name is Philip Kerr, and I've had a house in Harrington for 9 years. It's important to understand where we came from. The mill is one of the things that has fascinated me about this group of people. The amount of work that they put into it, this was before I arrived in this community, the amount of work that they've done is stellar. And I could see the passion that the people who have lived here for longer have for what they're working on. If the mill pond goes away, it's like the mill has lost a limb, because of the fact that I feel it is so important to be able to demonstrate the force of the water operating the mill. There aren't that many mills around anymore, and many have been decommissioned or torn down, and this one was saved from that. And it's the passion of the people that I mentioned, who have been working for so long, that I just found infectious, and I felt that I could maybe do something to help. It's the story of settling this part of Ontario, and it's the story of the history of industry in this part of Ontario. I think it's all a part of understanding where we came from.
The mill, without water power, it's still a lovely historical building, but to have it running the way it was originally ran and intended to run would just make it so much more real to children especially. I mean, we have the seniors are equally as enthralled with the mill as kids, and I mean a lot of that is because some of them that come obviously have personal connections. They remember, we have people come that remember coming here with their grandfather or
with their dad.
Yeah.
And it is. It's a real. You can tell it really touches them. We have such a opportunity here with the grist mill and the mill pond to preserve that and to share that with the younger children and the new generations coming. Like it's that being able to literally walk and be within such a historical site. And as without the pond, and we certainly don't want it to become this abandoned building. Like it's just too great a piece of history too.
It would be horrible. I mean, there's been thousands of dollars, and thousands of hours of volunteer labor and donations that have been put into where it is now. It was in a totally derelict state when the association took over custody.
So it would be a mark of recognition, I think, that what they did was valuable and worthwhile, and we are going to preserve it.
About 15 years ago, the Harrington and Area Community Association got together with Upper Thames Conservation and took over the management of the mill and the conservation area with the intention to restore the mill and try and bring back some of its glory days and to preserve some history for our future generations.
Welcome to the Harrington Grist Mill tour. This mill was originally built in 1846, burned down in 1923, and what you see here today was what was built in 1923. And they would have to manufacture the cogs from time to time, new gears from time to time, because they would wear out. The metal ones would never wear out. But the reason that they ran wood into metal was to avoid sparking. This is an elevator leg. What it is a belt with a series of cups. And you've dumped your grain into this bin, and these cups are now taking your grain up into a bin upstairs.
Nice.
My father, Alvin Heiser, used to have a trucking business, and at different times people would hire him to haul grain over to the mill here. And he passed away a number of years ago, and when we were in the process of restoring the mill here, up on this wall here, and through, there was AH, and that's my father's initials that were signed on there probably 50, 60 years ago. And so my father passed away in 1965, and this has brought back some warm memory when I see my dad's initials on the wall here, the Wall of Fame.
It was a farming community. There was a pond and a mill here, and the farmers have to get their grain milled, but we didn't have trucks back 150 years ago. We had horse-drawn wagons, so in order to get their grains milled, they had to have a mill that was nearby.
Probably 8 or 9, when I would jump onto the wagon with a little seat in front and the whole wagon full of bags of grain to come over. I probably wasn't allowed into the mill because all the machinery and everything, and I might have gotten into trouble. Oh, I just think it's wonderful that it's staying in the community and all fixed up, and I hope someday we can get it running.
I'd have my skates with me. I'd be 7 or 8, I suppose, at the time, and I'd go down on the pond, and at the far end of the pond, about 3/4 of the way down, it was there was no snow or anything on the ice. It was just sheer clear. You could see 6, 8 feet down to the bottom, you know, like you were skating in water. So that's what I'd do for like an hour or two or whatever it took to grind the grain.
This artifact here is an old line shaft, probably that came out of the fire in 1923. That's why it's bent, and it's extremely heavy. The mill was driven by water power through the turbine. The water came from the pond.
Well, the Harrington Mill is probably one of our best success stories. We've got wildflower gardens on the property, we've got trails around the property, and of course you've seen what has happened to the mill. It's a small group, very committed. Lots of people turn out when there's a work party, and they have monthly meetings which I attend, and this is a very energetic, very hard-working group.